Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today on The Hitchin, we're going to be talking about a topic that's close to home for many of us right now. Because I don't know if you've been to the grocery store recently, but if you have, I can probably guarantee that you are experiencing grocery store shopping shock. This has been going on for a couple of years at least, but it has just gotten to the point where I am frustrated with it, and I thought that this would probably resonate with a lot of you guys as well, so I thought I would share my top tips and just some thoughts on saving money while grocery shopping. I had just read a statistic that said that after housing, food is actually the number one expense for most American households, and that's probably true for most households across the world. But here in the West, we just spend so much money on food. And there was another statistic that I just read last night through Dave Ramsey, who one of his advisors or one of his people that he has on his show was saying that the average millionaire or multimillionaire spends less than $500 a month on food, while the average family, the average American family, is spending close to $700 a month on food. And I thought that was interesting. And I was trying to figure out what the difference, like where the differences would lie there. And come to find out, it's not through eating out. The average American family spends about $300 to $400 a month eating out, while the average millionaire only spends about $200 a month eating out. And it's not in food quality. It is actually in portion sizes and what people are eating. And that just was really amazing to me. I don't know why that seemed so... It's such a simple answer, but it just... Yeah, I don't know. I have talked about this before, but there's a podcast out there called ChooseFi, ChooseFi. And I started listening to it a long time ago, and I would recommend it if you're new to financial literacy. They're not, I don't think, Christian. They don't have a biblical worldview. They have a lot of good practical tips. And the one episode that I would recommend, like right off the bat, would be Fat Wallet Fit Waist. And that was very helpful to me. The other episodes, I don't know if I can really recommend them or not, but that one was good. So, anyhow, I wanted to just get us all on board with saving money on our groceries, because that grocery bill can add up. But fear not, with this guide, we're going to uncover some practical strategies and mindful approaches to trim your grocery expenses while still nourishing your family. So grab a pen and paper, settle in, and let's get moving on a more mindful grocery shopping journey. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to my channel and to hit that notification bell so you can stay connected with The Hitchin on our journey of intentional Christian living. Let's get started. Mindful grocery shopping is about more than just scanning items. It's a practice that aligns with my value as a Reformed Christian, but it also allows us to be a good steward of our resources and to practice gratitude for the provision of food. God's given us this good food. Let's thank Him for it, and let's be mindful to be good stewards of the resources that allow us to buy this food. In Matthew 6:26, we are reminded, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them." So let's apply this wisdom to our grocery shopping. The foundation of saving money on grocery begins with planning and preparation. I cannot stress this enough. If you don't have a meal plan, you are already setting yourself up for failure. And if you need help with meal planning, I have in the past done some videos on meal planning, so they're there in the channel. Before you head to the store, take some time to make a list of what you need for the week. Planning helps you avoid impulse buying and ensures that you only purchase the items that you actually need and you will actually use. It's a very practical way to be super intentional about your purchases. If you are like me and you cannot go into a store without buying something that you don't need, I lack self-control in this area, and I am repenting of it. We're working our way through Dave Ramsey, so we're getting out of debt. So this is all, now I'm not the sole contributor of our family's debt, but I am part of the reason for it, so this is part of the repentance for it. But if you are an impulse shopper, and I am, then meal planning is going to help you. But the second thing that might help you, and it might seem frivolous at first, is a grocery delivery service. Now, I recommend Kroger if you have them in your area. I find their sales to be way less expensive than places even like Walmart and Aldi. If you have some other grocery delivery service in your area, just do a cost benefits analysis. I for sure save so much money by having my groceries delivered and not going into the store, even though it costs me $80 a year for the service. So, and you don't have to tip the drivers since at Kroger anyway. Now, if you're using another service like Shipt or Instacart, that is way more expensive. That will probably negate any savings of you not going into the store. Shipt and Instacart both upcharge their items, and you have to tip your shopper on top of that. And your shopper for those items is doing the job that you would have been doing. So it actually takes a long time to do that. I know I was a Shipt and Instacart shopper for a long time. And neither company pays their shoppers anything worth. And so they heavily rely on tips. So if you're trying to cut your budget and you can't afford to tip well, just don't use Shipt, don't use Instacart. Use a grocery delivery service where the drivers are paid by the company, not a service where they are independent contractors like Instacart or Shipt or DoorDash or any of those types of services. Not only are you going to be paying way more for the actual products because they are upcharging to make their profit, but then they're also not paying their people, and then you're going to have to tip them. So another fantastic way to save money is by embracing seasonal produce and sales items. And these often are more affordable, more flavorful, and more plentiful, and you'll just see them around a lot more as well. So I live in Central Florida. Our growing season is pretty long here. I have no shortage of seasonal produce available to me all the time. But if you live somewhere else, like, I don't know, Alaska, you're probably going to find this a lot harder to follow. But if you're somewhere in the middle, if you're the average American, shopping seasonal and sale items is just one of the best ways that you're going to save money. And I know that we all want our avocados tomorrow, but what you could do, and I do this as well, is if you find a really great sale price on something, figure out how to preserve that item. So just using the avocado example, if I have a neighbor who is selling her avocados for $1 a piece, I will go buy a box of avocados and then I will slice them up and freeze them, and they freeze beautifully. And then when I want fresh avocado and maybe they're not in season at that time, I can just pull them out of the freezer, and it was so inexpensive. But I do the same thing with peaches. We have peach season and blueberry season here, and we'll go pick our own, and then we'll can them or freeze them, and then we always have fresh fruits and vegetables available that were really inexpensive, and we're supporting local farmers, and that's all great. But I just want to emphasize that shopping local and seasonal and sale items is going to save you a ton of money. Another way that we save a bunch of money on our groceries is by buying in bulk and then cooking at home. So buying in bulk significantly reduces the cost per unit of the items that you use frequently, but it does cost more upfront. So I tend to buy things like rice, flour, sugar, coconut oil, cashew butter. I buy those things in bulk. They are so much cheaper to buy in a large quantity, and we typically go through them fast enough that I don't have to worry about them spoiling. But and I do have a small family, we're 4. So if you are worried about not going through the items quick enough, and then you do this, so let's say you buy, I don't know, some flour in bulk, and then you don't use it fast enough and it spoils, which flour can spoil. then you need to either consider the cost benefit analysis, like the return on investment of buying in bulk versus throwing food away, or, and this is what I suggest you do, is you still buy in bulk and then you figure out how to preserve that item. So for flour, what I do is I pack it in Mylar bags. I pack about 20 cups in a Mylar bag. I throw an oxygen absorber in there, and you can get Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers on Amazon for pennies, for so cheap. And then I put those into 5-gallon buckets and I store those. And so as I go through it, I take out a new 20-cup bag of flour, and then I don't have to waste the rest. Also, for things like grains, you're going to want to freeze them ahead of time. So make sure you have space in a freezer somewhere so that you can kill any potential like flour weevils or anything that might be in them. So you want to freeze your grains for about 72 hours before you separate them out into smaller units from the bulk quantities that you buy. If you have some bulk opportunity to shop, like maybe you have a Sprouts nearby where they have bulk bins, that might be a money-saving option as well. Cooking at home, related to buying in bulk, because if you're buying this food, you need to be preparing it at home. Cooking at home saves you a ton of money, and it also gives you control over your ingredients, your portions, your flavors. It's a wonderful way to nourish your family while enjoying the process of being a homemaker and being a good steward of the things that God has given you. And as a Reformed Christian, I want to be very mindful of stewardship, and this extends to the food that I'm buying. So if I reduce food waste, I honor God's provision. This isn't an environmentalist mumbo-jumbo thing. This is about just being mindful of what I was put here to have dominion over and to be a steward of. If you plan your meals to use up ingredients before they go bad, you freeze your leftovers, and you get creative with repurposing ingredients, your food budget is going to take a drastic nosedive. And it will be so helpful to you in being more creative, in using up your little bits of leftovers here and there. It is very common for me to make some sort of quiche with leftover eggs and a bunch of vegetables and meats that I find laying around in the fridge. Chop it all up, throw it in the oven, top it with a little bit of cheese, and voila, look, I just created a whole meal that is freezer ready and can be pulled out at any moment and reheated, and it took me basically no effort at all. All right, I want to get into a couple more very practical ways to save money on grocery shopping. Of course, make a shopping list. Shop with a full stomach if you can. Shopping when you're hungry definitely leads to impulse buys. If you're not using some sort of grocery delivery service, then definitely eat before you go into the store. Use coupons and discounts. This is one of the reasons that I really love Kroger delivery. They allow you to stack manufacturer coupons and Kroger coupons and their sales. I just end up saving a ton of money this way. And also check to see if the store that you're shopping at has some sort of loyalty program. If they do, sign up for it. They're going to send you coupons, and as you shop, they're going to track what you're shopping, but because they're tracking what you're shopping, they'll be able to tailor coupons towards you. Buy generic brands if possible. Generic and store brands are often way cheaper and are usually the same as the name brand items. I know Costco's Kirkland brand coffee is packaged at the same facility that Starbucks packages their coffee at. So you can do a quick online search and find out which store brands and generic brands are the same as your brand name brands and just in a different package. And there's also some store brand items that I actually prefer over name brand items. Shop seasonal produce. Avoid pre-packaged items. Buying whole ingredients and preparing meals from scratch is almost always more cost effective. The things that I see it not being more cost effective is in items like bread. It's usually cheaper to buy store-bought bread. However, it depends on your family's values and nutrition goals as well. So I do buy store-bought bread, especially when Kroger has their flash sales and they have bread for like 50 cents or $1 per loaf, and then I'll store those in the freezer. But I do make bread from scratch too. The family actually prefers the scratch bread. But if we're having a season where I'm just too busy and I can't make bread from scratch, then I have that freezer bread ready to pull out and use. Compare prices. Check your unit price on the shelf label to compare different sizes and brands for the best deal. Buy in bulk for all non-perishable items. Limit processed foods. Processed and convenience foods are always more expensive. Opt for whole ingredients instead. Plan for leftovers. Cook larger batches and plan for leftovers to reduce the need to create extra meals, but also it costs less per meal when you make 2 of the same meals, if that makes sense. So let's say I'm making 2 lasagnas. It actually costs me less money to make 2 lasagnas than it does to make 1 lasagna over the course because of the way that ingredients are portioned out. So I can use 1 package of lasagna noodles and that will make 2 whole lasagnas, and I can use 1 package of ground beef and I can just split. So I can make the portion sizes a little bit bigger, but the ingredients a little bit less, if what I'm saying makes sense. And then like 2 packages of ricotta cheese and 1 package of mozzarella cheese, and now I've got the makings for 2 lasagnas, so that actually saves me a whole night of making dinner. And also, by making some freezer meals, whenever the need arises in my church community to need to prepare a meal for someone to take to someone who's sick or someone who was injured or someone who's recovering from a surgery or having a baby or whatever, I have a meal in the freezer just ready to pull out and take. So it's always amazing when you can be generous, especially when you're on a budget. And I think God calls us to be generous even while we are on a budget. So those are things to keep in mind as well. Use cash back apps, but be careful with this because don't go on there and start looking for things that you wouldn't necessarily buy. So I use 2 cashback apps. I use Ibotta and I use Fetch. Fetch allows you to scan grocery receipts, and Ibotta allows you to scan grocery receipts for like items that they are advertising for sale. So you can do that, but be aware that might, especially if you're an impulse shopper, that might actually drive you to buy more than what you were actually going to buy. So just, be honest with yourself. Are you going to use it just to scan the receipt and see if it gives you cash back? I probably make about $100 or $200 a year on these cashback apps. It's not a lot, but every little bit counts. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store. If you're going inside the store, walk the outer aisles because that's fresh produce, dairies, and meats, which are healthier and more budget friendly. Make your own snacks like granola bars, trail mix, and popcorn, and save money on prepackaged snacks. Use your freezer. Freeze excess items like breads, meats, and produce to prevent them from going bad. I do this. I'll buy like turkey, like lunch meat in bulk, and then I'll split it and freeze the amount that I know we're not going to get through in a week, and then I just pull that next portion out for the following week. Meal plan. Always meal plan. Plan your meals for the week to avoid last-minute expensive takeout. Avoid buying bottled waters. Invest in reusable water bottles and save money on bottled beverages. The other way that you can save a bunch of money on bottled beverages, especially if you're not a big fan of water, is by finding water additives. There's one out there called Mio. I don't like that one. It's got a lot of junk added into it, like propylene glycol. But there's another one out there called Stur, S-T-U-R, and that's made with stevia and natural flavorings, and that one's pretty good. Grow your own herbs if you have the space. Shop once a week. Frequent trips to the store can lead to extra spending. Plan to shop once a week. This may or may not work with your scheduling. I have had seasons in life where monthly shopping was what I had to do, and I have had seasons in life where weekly or bi-weekly shopping has been what I've needed to do. Right now, I shop weekly, and we also go to Costco, which is a bulk store, about once every 3 to 4 months to restock on what we can't get elsewhere. And then my final tip is to practice portion control. Cook and serve the right portion sizes to avoid overeating and wasting food. So this is an area that I struggle in, probably because I'm overweight, and also because when I was younger, I suffered from food insecurity. So I always like to have a lot of food on hand, and I like to have a lot of food on my plate, and there's this whole idea like if whatever I put on my plate, I need to clear off my plate, like I need to eat the whole thing, and it's all psychological and it's all kind of gross. And a lot of it just has to do with not having good self-control. So if you are like me and overweight and you need to lose weight, then this is actually a great area in which to save money, because you can eat less. You can just make smaller portions. And also, if you're not mindful of the amount of calories that are going in and the amount of calories that are going out, it's just a good idea to maybe track your calories to see, am I overeating? Like, I'm overweight, I'm definitely overeating. I'm not moving enough and I'm eating too much. And now I am losing weight very slowly and I'm doing it in a healthy manner, but there are definitely times where I overeat, and I still to this day overeat. So this is something that I just have to keep repenting of. I just have to keep working on. And I have to be aware that this might be a sin that I'm going to continue to struggle with, and I will continue to have to pay the price with my body for struggling with this sin. So it's one of those things where you have to continuously lean not on your own understanding and lean on the strength that God gives you. So, practicing portion control is one of those topics where, especially right now in our culture, people don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about eat when your body tells you to eat or whatever. But listen, the heart is deceitful above all things. Don't follow your heart or your stomach. Use common sense here. All right, well, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. If it has, if you've learned some good, just very practical steps on how to save money on your grocery bill, give me a like, leave me a comment, and subscribe. And if you find that this would be great for so-and-so, share this video with them. We could all use a little money-saving tips during this crazy time in our generation, in our culture. So, all right, well, I will get back to you with another video later, but that's all for now. Sola Deo Gloria. Have a good one.